Hey guys, it's me Seren back with another video. I'm super tired. Even though I don't know why I was off work yesterday, so really I should just be full of energy, but I'm not. So yeah, bear with me through this video. This is a video I've been wanting to make for a really long time. Actually, probably at least a month or maybe even more. But I wasn't really sure what exactly to say. So I finally kind of got it together to make this video. And the way I'm going to frame it is around a conversation that I had on Instagram. I'm going to probably read you guys a lot of it. I could post links, but it was a long conversation and you guys don't need to read all of that. But basically what the conversation revolves around is last week I saw an article talking about slang and hip hop and how a lot of corporations have been kind of using these slang words in their advertising campaigns. And one in particular that I read stood out to me. It was about IHOP using the term on fleek, pancakes on fleek, and how a bunch of other Twitter accounts quickly followed suit. Taco Bell, tacos on fleek, and Denny's has a really sordid racial history. They have like hundreds of open cases right now about racism from both employees as well as customers, saying they face discrimination and there's a racial bias and all that good stuff. So when I saw that these corporations have kind of fallen in the habit of utilizing slang, African American vernacular English, and slang words, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So I read the article, which the article kind of revolved around the novelty of IHOP's Twitter account using this slang, because the two dudes that run the Twitter account are these two middle-aged white dudes, like two 40-year-old like white guys. So it's kind of like, when we went to go meet the people running the Twitter account, it's these like two older white dudes, and they're talking about how they're trying to attract, a younger, hipper, edgier demographic, which is why, they kind of go through Twitter. They do these crawls through Twitter where they kind of, find the slang words that are poppin' and utilize them. Which I read some stuff on Tumblr about it where someone utilized the term brand Blackface, which, as you guys know, is the title of this video. I did not make that up. I'm awful, and I did not save the post, and it has now disappeared into the abyss with all the Halloween posts and this and that, so I'm so sorry. But basically, it said, brand Blackface strikes again, and that really just kind of like stuck with me. So I ended up making a post on Instagram where I screen capped the tweet, like pancakes on fleek. And I was like, brand Blackface, like, strikes again. This is like thug kitchen, thug racist level racism. You guys know how I feel about the fucking thug kitchen assholes. And someone asked me, how is this racist? And I responded, I said, it's cultural appropriation to, I'm reading clearly, it's cultural appropriation. Two 40-year-old white dudes are behind the Twitter account for IHOP, and they're utilizing African American vernacular English to monetize Black culture without being active participants in the culture. And this also kind of goes along with like Ugly Azalea, right? Like, you're monetizing a culture that you did not grow up in, that you are not a part of, and that you will never be a part of. You're not funneling any of that money back into the community. You're just kind of padding your own white pockets and calling it a day. And then I went on. They're getting paid for these tweets, but do you think the Black kids on Twitter that made up on fleek or popularized the term are getting anything? This is classic appropriation. White people love to take components of Black culture, mainstream them, and monetizing them while removing any cultural context. It's brand Blackface. So, basically what they're doing is, they're Miley Cyrusing the Twitter account, because as I've said in other videos, America has a long history of, mainstreaming and monetizing countercultures. This is Black culture. This is Hispanic and Latino Chola culture, which is like big every year around this time, Day of the Dead type stuff. This is any type of counterculture, punk, the punk rock culture, the grunge culture, any type of counterculture that goes against the norm and is seen as subversive and other a lot of times, you know, people that are trying to freshen up, you know, their concepts will steal things from these countercultures and utilize them to make their own stuff seem edgy, hip, fresh, and new, especially with African American culture, which has grown to become, you know, so prominent in American culture. You know, black culture right now is everywhere. It is American culture. It's the dominant culture right now at this point. So when you have, you know, people on these social media, you have black people on these social media sites, and they're creating these slang words, and they're popularizing these, you know, these slang words. You know, they're on Tumblr, they're saying on Fleek, they're saying fuckboy, they're saying or nah, you know, they're saying, you know, all type of stuff. These corporations see an opportunity to basically make money for free, you know, because social media, once something takes off on social media, you really have no way of even tracing it, right? Like, on Fleek became a huge thing, but you can just take it and use it. You don't have to actually pay anybody, you know? So I said that, and someone replied, you know, I get what you're trying to say. This is Columbusing our terms, but you don't think this will help bring understanding to the other side. Sharing of language can be a positive. I felt like that was an excellent point. And that person kind of went on to, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but kind of went on to say some other really interesting things about, he works in advertising. He's a friend of mine. He works in advertising, and he's saying, you know, this is kind of, you know, one of my ways of attempting to, you know, fight back against the system and against, you know, white supremacy, because, you know, black people are really underrepresented in ads and in advertising, even though we have a very large spending base, which is true. You know, we're underrepresented in commercials. We're underrepresented in magazine ads. You know, right now there's a huge push to cater to the Asian population because their fucking economy is like expanding at such a huge rate. You know, their buying power is immense right now. So, and then of course, you know, white people, as always, they get especially with luxury items. Luxury items are almost always exclusively pushed towards white people. You know, cars, watches, clothes. They put white people, white girls, and white men in those ads, and now a substantial amount of Asians. So he said, you know, one of the ways that I feel like, you know, I'm doing what I can to try to kick back is to work in advertising and to try to include, you know, black people, black terms, black slang, black language, you know, to try to, you know, bridge that gap, bridge that divide between the two cultures, which I've talked about in other videos. You know, there's an ignorance and a cultural ignorance that white people have about black people and people of color in general. And I said, you know, that's a great point. Excellent point. However, these tweets that I'm specifically talking about are not doing that. You know, like when Taco Bell says on Fleek, when IHOP says these pancakes hitting though, you know, when Denny says baby got stacks, they are not trying to be inclusive of black people. What they're actually doing is they're reaping black culture for hip, again, edgy, subversive terms that they can turn around and use to make a profit. If they really wanted to be more inclusive of black people, it wouldn't be two white, middle-aged, you know, old dudes running IHOP's Twitter account. There would be more of a push to hire more black people, to hire more black interns, to hire more black advertisers, to hire more black social media managers, to have more black people in, you know, magazine advertisements and television spots and, you know, stuff like that. But we're not doing that, right? We're still, ignore the dogs. They're assholes, as I've said before. They're still, you know, we're underrepresented. We're vastly underrepresented. You know, we're underrepresented in movies. You know, people of color make up more than half of the people that buy movie tickets, but they're less than 10% of the leads in movies. The majorities of the leads in movies are still white, straight males. And that's across the board. You know, that's sci-fi, fantasy, action, suspense, drama, across the board, you know, where there's hardly any black people. There's hardly any Asians or Hispanics. Like, kiss them goodbye. Like, you know, and people of color are more than half of the people that buy, you know, movie tickets in this country. You know, same thing with television. Same thing with, you know, magazines, you know, the modeling world. You know, people will say, oh, we have our one black girl, you know. So this is not about bridging a cultural gap, because they're not actually trying to bridge any cultural gaps. They're not actually hiring more black people. They're not actually utilizing, more black creatives. What they're doing is they're going through social media and they're stealing catchy little hooks and catchphrases and they're monetizing them. IHOP saw an 18% market rise after they started doing these tweets, because all these kids started following them and going to IHOP. So here's a white-owned company with 2 white middle-aged men running their Twitter account that have harvested black culture, and they've seen an 18% profit. Meanwhile, we, the black people that created it, have seen nothing. We didn't get paid for the slang. We didn't get paid for the tweets. We didn't get paid for the advertisements utilizing the language. We didn't get anything. We literally got nothing. We're still in the exact same place that we started. Which brings me to something that I've really been meaning to talk about, the whole basis of why I wanted to create this video, which is that people are under the assumption that influence equals power. Influence does not equal power. Just because, black people have strong influence right now culturally does not mean that we have power. We don't. That influence has not translated into political power. That influence has not translated into star power at the box office or on the TV shows or, on the runway. It has not translated into more black-owned businesses, None of the influence, none of the grip that we have on the, dominant pop mainstream culture right now has translated into any type of real power. It's just influence, And the reason why this bugs me so much is because you'll see people say oh, well, black people are doing so well, we influence everything. Okay, but your boss is still white. You realize that, right? Your boss is still white. Your boss's boss is still white. The CEO of your company is most likely still white. The grocery stores that you go to are still white-owned. All the products that you use are still white-owned. When you go to see a movie, the majority of the people in the movie are going to be white. When you watch TV, the majority of people, on the TV are going to be white. When you watch fashion shows, the models are going to be white. When you, thumb through a magazine, the bitch on the cover is probably going to be white. Everybody on the inside is probably going to be white. But they're going to be using terms that and that you created. They're going to be wearing clothes and trends and styles that and that you created. But guess what? They're going to be monetizing it for them, and you're not going to get anything. And it's this is such a hard concept for people to grasp, And it burns me up because it's just we don't have anything, Someone else wrote me on Instagram and said oh, well, you feel like this is such a problem. What do you want? What do you want? We're seen. We're visible. This is a good thing. And I'm no, you know what I want? I don't need visibility. I don't need relevance. I don't need people to have more fucking Instagram likes and retweets. You know what I need? If IHOP wants to be hip and young and edgy and black, I need IHOP corporate to hire some hip, edgy, young black people. I need Denny's to hire hip, edgy, young black people, okay? All these food corporations want to use this slang and stuff. I need to see some black chefs on Food Network. Where the hell are they? There's only 1 or 2, But I'll see white chefs using black terminology and black slang, right? I want to see more black models. I want to be able to, take my pick of black-owned businesses. If I decide I don't want to buy Tide, I want to buy, laundry detergent from a black-owned cleaning company, I want to be able to have my pick. I don't want to, buy Tide, which is white-owned, just because they use some cute little black phrase to make me feel they're doing something for me when they're actually not. All they're doing is getting me to spend money. That's it. They're getting me to spend money to give them more power, more economical power, I don't want to see, white political nominees using slang terminology and African-American vernacular English to get me to vote for them. I want to see more black nominees. I want to see more black politicians. I want to see more black cops, I want to see more, and not just black either, Hispanic and Latino, Asian, indigenous peoples, Native Americans, however many of them are left, I want to see true representation, not just, you steal some cute words and some cute slang and you say, oh, well, but this is for you. But you're not actually giving me anything. You're taking from me, you're making money off me, and then you're telling me I should be happy and I should be grateful that you even recognized my presence, right? Like, that's what we're talking about here, you know? A racist mainstream culture telling us we should just be happy with what we get. And people are, like, brainwashed, you know? Like, there's no type of context given. Like, in the damn Toyota commercial with the rat fat fucking Toyota van, whatever. Like, there's no type of, you know, Busta Rhymes is in that video with a completely white family, and the whole thing is like a mockery. It's like blackface. They're like mocking the, you know, the black slang against the cute white family. And then you'll have people that watch that and say, like, oh, but, like, that's our influence. Like, look at our influence. Like, that's not a good influence. That's not what I want to see. And there are people out here that are trying so hard on YouTube, on Etsy. You know, they are creating. They're creating. Look up Cecile Emeke on YouTube and her, you know, amazing documentary series and her amazing comedy series, Aki and Saltfish. But they can't get on. They can't get recognition. They can't get funding. They can't get hired. But then you have, like, white people that come along and do the same thing that they've stolen, you know, slang and vernacular, and it's hip and edgy and wonderful and amazing, and, you know, they get all this money and all this attention. So it's just something that, you know, I wanted to kind of point out and make a video about, because it's important to me that people understand that influence is not power. Influence is nothing if it doesn't translate into, again, economical power, you know, political power, you know, business acumen, you know, because at the end of the day, all you have is some cute little slang words and some catchphrases that, you know, a white person can come along and take from you at any moment, package it, sell it, slap some blonde hair on it, and now they're rich and you have nothing. They have an 18% uptick in the market and you have shite, but some cute influence, you know. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. As always, I love when you guys leave comments and have lots of dialogue. You guys had tons of dialogue on my last video, which I enjoyed, even the ones of you that disagreed with me.